Hey, how you doing? This is Gary C. with Smiling Medicine Entertainment, backstage at the 12th annual Jerry Day at Terminal West, and we have a surprise guest of Papa Molly. Welcome to Atlanta.
Hey, thanks, man. What's happening?
Everything. It's all happening all day today. So, how did you like your set, first of all? How'd you like playing here?
I thought it was great. Very impressed with my new best friends.
All right.
Yeah.
So then,
Frankly, Scarlett.
they pulled it off pretty well for you?
Well, they killed it. Are you kidding me?
They did. They usually do.
You were there.
They usually do kill it.
They killed it.
So, so we're all here today celebrating the life and music and legacy of Jerry Garcia, and that's the purpose of the day. And I just want to ask your introduction to Jerry Garcia and his music. How did that all start? How did that begin? And what influence did his music have on you as a musician?
Well, like a lot of guys from my generation, I grew up, was born in the late 50s and grew up in the 60s. You know, the Grateful Dead were kind of on my radar when I was about 14. And you have to realize that as a 14-year-old, I was very deeply into music. I started collecting records when I was about 6 years old because my older brother liked a lot of really good music, and my mother actually liked a lot of really good music. So I kind of realized the importance of like vinyl records and record players, and so at the age of 6, at the young fresh age of 6, when I was just like starting school, my oldest sister, who was 12 years older than me, had just gone to college, and I inherited her record player. And I actually inherited several of her records too, which was really cool. And then so I just like immediately started collecting records, listening to records, thinking about records. And by the time I was about 12 or 13 years old, this is like 1969, 1970, everybody in the rock scene was on my radar. I was already way into Jimi Hendrix because I started playing guitar when I was 5 years old. Really? Wow. Yeah. Nice. The Ventures. That was my first like love. It's like surf music. You know? Yeah. So by the time I was 12, like Hendrix came along, and I was like wake up call. Yeah, like okay, every guitar player in the world needs to know about this. Yeah. And then I started hearing about the Grateful Dead, and I'm trying to remember exactly the timeline here, but I'd heard a few things by the Dead, but I wasn't really into them so much, right? Just on radio stuff or something? Like, yeah. I wasn't so much like really like into them. And then this friend of mine who was kind of a bookworm sort of guy before he left, but then he went to college, not college, sorry, he went to like prep school, what they used to say back east, right? Mm-hmm. His family was like from the East Coast, and he went to prep school back east. And so he comes back when we're about 15 years old, and suddenly I can tell he looks freakier than he did when he left. You know, he was like this bookwormy kind of like owl-looking dude before he left. And then he comes back and he's like still owly looking, but he's got wireframes and he's got a tie-dye on and his hair is long and my hair is long, and like this is in Shreveport, Louisiana, where I grew up. Right? Okay. So like we're like the two freakiest looking kids in junior high. And he comes over and he goes, man, are you into the Dead? I'm like, Grateful Dead? He's like, yeah. Really? You know, it's like, well, I got some window pane, and I got like this stack of records right here, and I said, oh, my parents are going out of town tomorrow. What timing? Perfect. You know what I mean? 14 years old, right? So we have this little get together and 14-year-old kids dropping really good LSD and like listening to the Dad for the first time ever, really. You know. So this is about 1972, I guess. Let's see, I was 14 and 70. I was born in 57, something like that. 72, 70, 71, 71.
Yeah.
So anyway, at that point, I was into the Dead. Saw the Dead first time, 73.
Yeah. Good year to see him.
Yeah, good year to see him, right? Again, tripping my ass off on mushrooms. And it was already solidified by then, but it was like, that was it, right? And then, as time went on, I became a musician myself, which I was already had been doing. You know, my own musical path, it didn't lead me down that path that a lot of Deadheads went down. I wasn't following the band around. I wasn't collecting tapes. I wasn't doing any of that shit. What I was doing was I was playing my own shows. I was traveling around playing my own shows, trying to make my own name as a musician. But I always held that Dead thing in my heart because I knew that it was real and I knew it was powerful. And then many years go by and I meet Bill Kreutzmann, and suddenly it all just kind of like comes together for me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this thing that happened to me when I was young, there was a reason for that. There was a reason for that. You know, and Billy and I hit it off right off the bat. I didn't even recognize him, you know. When I met him, I didn't even know he was.
He probably liked that.
Yeah, of course he liked it.
Yeah.
Because he's so used to people like putting him on a pedestal. And I didn't do that. I was like, oh, he is a nice, cool guy. He was backstage at one of my shows. I was playing at Oregon Country Fair. This is like, you know, back in like 2008. I was playing at Oregon Country Fair.
Okay.
Just played a set of funk with like these cats. I've been touring with. He comes back. Oh, that was a great set, man. Blah blah blah. We're talking. We're enjoying ourselves. We're like, you know, it's like I have no idea who he is. And then suddenly I see that he's got this little steely on his cowboy hat. I think to myself, he introduced himself as Bill, and I'm looking at his face. And I'm going, I said, "Are you Bill Kreutzmann?" and he said, "Well, actually, it's Kreutzmann, man. But yeah." And I'm like, "Motherfucker," you know? It's like okay. So here we've been talking for 30 minutes and already getting along well, talking about New Orleans, talking about our mothers, talking about fishing, all kinds of shit. So he says, "You want to do some acid?" I just met this cat. You know what? I said, I hadn't done acid in 20 years, man, but if I'm going to do it ever again, I want to do it with you. So yeah, let's go. So off we went.
All right. Nice.
And we formed a fast friendship, and next thing you know, I was writing songs with Robert Hunter, and we had an album out, and we're on tour for 5 years. So.
Nice. So you were talking a little bit about this before the interview started. The Dead have this phrase in one of their lyrics about the music playing the band.
Of course.
And you were hinting about some of that after the show, talking with someone.
Tonight. Yeah.
So that happened tonight. Does that happen often with you? Do you find that you're on stage and all of a sudden music
if it doesn't
playing that you're not thinking about, you're even doing?
If it doesn't happen, it's not a good show.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, because truly, like good musicians, they lose themselves in it to the point where like we don't even know that it's us anymore. Mm-hmm. We don't even know. I mean, like I believe that like if you're a good musician, you realize that like something is channeling through you, and you like forget who you are and where you are, and that's why I couldn't even do this interview until 30 minutes after the show because it takes me that long to get back into my body.
You remember like as a younger musician the first time something like that happened?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I remember it real well.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even that good yet.
Yeah.
But I was already smoking dope. And like me and my buddy went out to this place out on the lake, and we smoked a really good joint, and we watched the sun go down, and we were playing guitar, and suddenly like it was over, and I was just like, shit, was that us? That was really good, you know what I mean? So yeah. So yes, it does happen. Even to those who are uninitiated or whatever. That was the first time I ever felt it. I realized, and also at that point, I also realized that it's like God, because like, you know, everything that people attribute to God, which, you know, I have nothing against God. I love God. Whatever you call it, you know what I mean? Like whatever you call it. But I realized at that moment that like that was higher than me. It was a place where my spiritual body was able to go, where I really had nothing to do with it. My body had nothing to do with it. My fingers playing guitar had nothing to do with it. It's just like, I was still really young at that point.
Yeah.
And I just realized like I transcended something. And that's what people talk about when they talk about God. They talk about transcending that feeling of like being part of the universe or whatever.
So you're pretty much based in New Orleans now, right?
Not pretty much, definitely always
full time. So my question is, unfortunately this year New Orleans lost a lot of its favorite sons with Art Neville and Dr. John and all.
Just this last month has been incredible.
Yeah.
But hard as far as the losses go. But as far as like, these guys are, I mean, Art and Dr. John, Mac, because we're both friends of mine. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask about, if you had musical interactions with them.
But I mean, you know, like everybody's time has got to come. I'm not saying that it's not terrible that they're gone, but to be honest with you, both of those guys lived a long life and contributed a lot, and they both really weren't themselves anymore anyway. You know, because I know that for a fact, because I know like how I used to get, you know, I know. It's like neither one of them were like really like, just like a lot of old people get when they get old. They're not themselves anymore. They're just they're trying to like remember who is in the room with me. And I mean, I don't mean to sound that in any sort of disrespectful way. I mean, God,
but it happens.
Anybody that knows me knows that like Dr. John is definitely like my biggest influence in the world, and I couldn't even be with me without what he did musically. And Art Neville and the whole Neville family has like been so influential and so helpful to me, and you know, God bless them all. And I'll miss them very bad, but Art wasn't himself the last couple of years. Mac wasn't himself for the last couple of years.
Well, let's look at
life. People live in this.
So the last question would be, for younger musicians watching this, just getting their start, just starting to play and all, any advice for them for getting going and their careers?
Absolutely. Okay. All right. First of all, realize this: that like there are people that like that can influence you. There are people that can really bring you to that next level. There's people that can help you get to that next level. A lot of them are living, a lot of them are dead. But you need to respect what came before you can appreciate what it is. You cannot like appreciate the masters of jazz, for instance. You can't even appreciate Miles Davis and Charlie Parker, who've been gone a long time, without appreciating Louis Armstrong. You can't. It's all a process. It's all a thing. You cannot appreciate the guitar player of John Mayer without appreciating the guitar player of Blind Lemon Jefferson and the guitar playing of T-Bone Walker and these people that laid down the gauntlet and like they threw down the gauntlet. They laid the foundation. You can't appreciate Jerry Garcia without acknowledging all those people that I just mentioned and a lot more. You can't. You just can't. It's like that they understood that shit, and that everybody that like picks up an instrument needs to understand that it all goes back to the cats that laid the foundation. And the farther you dig, the more you will unearth, the more you will realize that like this is a long thing. It's been going on for a long time. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about this ancient, beautiful thing that existed before you were here, and it will exist long after you're gone. And if you can tap into that, then you might have a chance of like turning on a few other people, you know, and then you might even have a chance of turning on the world.
And that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal.
All right, we've been talking with Papa Molly here at Terminal West for the 12th annual Jerry Jam. Thanks for coming up here to Atlanta. Thanks for playing a great set. The audience loved it, and maybe we'll see you again next year.
I hope so. Thanks, man.
All right, thanks so much.
I had a great time. Much respect.